Good afternoon and welcome. What began as a community gathering in Minneapolis has now become the center of a national reckoning over immigration enforcement, the use of force, and accountability at the highest levels of government. If you value clear, fact-based reporting that puts people first, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss coverage like this.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. 1 week ago, Renee Good had the courage to show up to support her neighbors and help her community withstand the unnecessary mass deployment of ICE officers and federal agents into Minneapolis. She was peaceful, she was well-intentioned, she was calm and friendly, telling the officers circling her, "I'm not mad at you." And for that, having the audacity to be a fearless woman and for trying to remove herself from the tense situation Donald Trump and Secretary Noem ICE manufactured and escalated, an ICE officer shot her 3 times and killed her. Renee Good was a mother of 3 children. She was a wife, a writer, a poet, a devoted Christian, and a U.S. citizen. She was a human being. She was a newcomer to the city of Minneapolis, but she had the kindness of heart and devotion to welfare of strangers to want to support her new neighbors. In the words of her wife, we honor Renee's memory by living her values, rejecting hate, and choosing compassion, turning away from fear and pursuing peace, refusing division and knowing what we must come together to build a world where we all can come home safe to the people we love, unquote. Our heartfelt condolences go out to her wife, children, family, friends, and neighbors. At this time, I ask my colleagues to join me in a moment of silence to honor the memory of Miss Good. Thank you. Now I want to discuss where we go from here. People in cities and communities throughout our country are grieving, they are scared, they are angry. I'm here with my colleagues, and we hear from them that Donald Trump's administration's actions have been hateful as well as harmful. Immediately after last week's shooting, Kristi Noem rushed to the nearest camera and spouted off a series of bold-faced lies. Her disgusting response set the stage for a brazenly political federal investigation that has excluded state and local officials and is clearly intended to shield the shooter from prosecution. Incredibly, the investigation has focused not on the shooter, but on the victim and her family. As a result, several federal prosecutors have resigned in protest. Kristi Noem has plainly tried to signal to ICE that they are free to act with impunity, to purposefully manufacture and escalate confrontations, and even execute whomever they please, and she will have their back. She has unleashed ICE and other federal law enforcement officers upon American communities, not to protect them, but to attack them and to sow fear, violence, and chaos. We cannot and we will not tolerate this violence against our communities. The killing of Miss Good must be independently investigated to those responsible, from the agent who pulled the trigger to the president and secretary who deployed them. They must be held accountable. And we cannot stop there. Unfortunately, when it comes to Ms. Noem, This cruelty and disregard for the rule of law is part of a long pattern of behavior. This shooting did not happen in a vacuum. It is a tragic result of Noem's dangerous reign as secretary. Since taking office, Noem has established a corrupt culture at the Department of Homeland Security. She and her political allies conduct themselves as though they are above the law. She has wantonly enriched herself and her associates at taxpayers' expense. She has openly defied court orders, undermining the constitutional rule of law. She has used access to disaster funds to punish political foes, and she has obstructed congressional oversight. She has directed the indiscriminate deportation of thousands of people without due process, most of whom have no criminal record, including U.S. citizens, children, some with serious illnesses against the wishes of their parents. In short, Kristi Noem has repeatedly abused her power and violated her oath of office. This is why today we are announcing we will begin a process of accountability for Secretary Noem. This is not a remedy, but we pursue it aggressively. As a scholar put it, a last-ditch mechanism to address offenses against constitutional democracy by a single individual that cannot adequately address those ordinary channels of government. So it's accountability. We'll start the process looking at. We're not sure where it will go, but we'll follow it wherever it leads. Her conduct has gravely endangered the security of the United States, its people, and its institutions of government. Kristi Noem must be held accountable.
1 week ago, Renee Good stepped into a moment of tension, not to provoke, not to confront, but to protect her neighbors. According to testimony presented during today's hearing, she showed up during a large-scale ICE operation in Minneapolis that residents say felt more like a military occupation than a law enforcement action. Witnesses described federal agents flooding neighborhoods, creating fear and confusion among families who live there every day. Renee Good was not armed. She was not threatening. She was described as calm, friendly, and intentional in her words, even telling officers, "I'm not mad at you." If this kind of human-centered reporting matters to you, take a moment to subscribe and stay with us. What happened next is why this hearing exists. An ICE officer shot Renee Good 3 times. She died at the scene. Lawmakers emphasize that this was not an anonymous statistic or a passing headline. Renee was a mother of 3, a wife, a writer, a poet, a Christian, and a United States citizen. She had recently moved to Minneapolis and chose to stand up for people she barely knew, simply because she believed in community and compassion. Stories like this demand more than quick sound bites, so if you want reporting that slows down and explains the full picture, please subscribe. During the hearing, her wife's words were read into the record. She said that honoring Renee's memory means rejecting hate, choosing compassion, turning away from fear, and refusing division. Lawmakers paused for a moment of silence, not as ceremony, but as acknowledgement that government policy has real human consequences. This is not abstract debate. This is about who comes home at the end of the day and who does not. If you want continued coverage that connects policy to real lives, subscribe to the channel. From there, the focus shifted to accountability. Members of Congress said communities across the country are not only grieving, but frightened and angry. They argue that the mass deployment of ICE officers under the Trump administration has escalated encounters that did not need to become deadly. Lawmakers said they are hearing from mayors, community leaders, and residents who feel their cities are being treated as hostile territory. To keep getting clear explanations of how federal decisions affect local communities, make sure you subscribe. A major point of contention in the hearing involves statements made by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. According to lawmakers, she appeared before cameras within hours and made claims they say were inaccurate or misleading. The accusation is not just about spin, but about shaping a public narrative before all facts were known. Committee members argued that when officials rush to defend an agency instead of committing to transparency, public trust erodes even further. If you want ongoing fact-checked reporting on these claims as they develop, subscribe now. This hearing was not just about one tragic death, it was about the broader question of how immigration enforcement is carried out, who sets the tone, and what safeguards exist when force is used. Lawmakers stressed that peaceful behavior should never end in lethal consequences, regardless of who is involved. They also made clear that being a citizen does not automatically protect someone when operations are aggressive and accountability is unclear. For deeper reporting that helps you understand these systems, subscribe to the channel. As this investigation continues, several unanswered questions remain. What were the exact circumstances that led to the use of lethal force? Who authorized this scale of the operation? What training and rules of engagement were in place? And perhaps most importantly, what changes, if any, will prevent something like this from happening again? These are the questions lawmakers say they intend to pursue, and we will be following every step. If you want to stay informed as new facts emerge, make sure you are subscribed. This is a developing story with national implications, not just for immigration policy, but for how government power is exercised in American communities. We will continue to bring you context, clarity, and the human stories behind the headlines. Subscribe to stay informed, and thank you for watching.